Hey everybody, welcome back here. George McNamara, Banish the Doubt. In this video, what I want to talk about, what I want to focus on is trauma. Trauma in childhood, specifically. What it is, when it happens, and how the majority of adults are living, our lifestyle is based off of it. Okay, some of you I've spoken to about this, talking to me about trauma taking place later in life. For myself, a lot of us have that, myself included. You know, I had cancer about 8 years ago now, traumatic event. But when you're older, you can kind of handle it a little differently. But when you're younger, as a child, it's a little more challenging. Obviously, you're not aware of it. So let's get started. And if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button and the subscribe in the all notification bell. That helps the algorithm for this channel. The more people hear these types of messages, the healthier each individual will become, and collectively, the healthier the world will become, because the world really, really needs it now. So, third T stands for third trimester. That's when the brain turns on. Okay? Now, what we don't know is that at this time, anything that mom is going through, whatever mom's physical and emotional state is like at this time, that information, that energy gets transferred through the placenta, through the umbilical cord, down to the fetus. And what scientists have discovered, and doctors, is that mother's emotional and physical state impacts the development of the child's nervous system and the brain. So now, children who are born into an environment where there's a lot of stress, an environment where there's no father, or an environment where there's a lot of substance abuse, an environment where there's a lot of anger, the brain doesn't develop nearly the same. And the nervous system is also stunted. There's a tremendous amount of developmental issues with the child, neurologically, and also the nervous system. Very, very, very important to understand this. Okay? Now, the hormones of stress go through the mother, to the placenta, to the umbilical cord, affecting the fetus. The fetus is, we said, the nervous system. We're not blaming moms. We're not blaming. This is not about blame or anything. It has nothing to do with that. There is nothing like that. This is just awareness. The more aware we are, it affects us on a cellular level. The DNA in our bodies gets affected, positively and negatively. So what this does, just knowing this already, has affected you on a cellular level. Just what I just told you right there. Okay? So at age 0, I'm going to get a marker here. At age 0, we're newborn, we're right into the world. From there until age 2, we are in what's called a delta brainwave state. So these are brainwaves. Okay? Think of yourself as in the middle of the night, sound asleep. This is why the infant will sleep the first year or so all the time, because it's in that delta brainwave state. But we're also, at that point, we are now observing. We're not just getting the energetic transfer from mom and dad, but we're now observing the home life. We're observing what goes on between mom and dad, the relationship, the dynamics that take place here to here. Okay. Now, at age 2, and let's say 3 or 4 or 5, some of us are entering into nursing, entering into preschool or any type of nursing care, not nursing, but you know what I'm talking about. Mom or dad is dropping us off. So what we're doing here is we're learning, and we're in theta brainwave state. Theta is a little bit faster than delta. Think of theta as when you're falling asleep. You're not completely asleep, you're not completely awake. You're in theta brainwave state. And in here, what we're learning is, well, how does the outside world operate? What are the rules? What are the rules for the family? A lot of us are becoming enculturated at this time. We're starting to enter into school. Right? We're getting an idea of what school is like, teachers, authority figures. For some of us, what's the church or whatever our religious affiliation is? What are the rules there? So lots of rules are being transferred down to us, where we're also dealing with whatever's taking place in society, but specifically our home life. Okay, and if there's a lot of trauma taking place, or if there's a lot of stress, such as things like, for myself, growing up, my father was an alcoholic, and we learned early on when he came home from work and sat in his chair, we kind of left him alone. But children, infants especially, they need attachment. And if there's not an attachment there, this is where the identity is starting to be formed. Well, I can't be emotionally attached to one of my parents or both, because it's just not there. Okay? So also what's important here is that the brain is in what's called a subconscious. So the information I'm talking about, all this here is being transferred into our bodies here. And all this is going into the subconscious brain. And what it's doing is it's setting us up, just like I'm setting up the computer. You want to set up a computer with a download, the operating system. This is the operating system for our life. It's how we're going to operate for the rest of our life. That's until age 7. From age 7 to age 12, we're in alpha brainwave state, which is a slow conscious. So just to recap, for the first 7 years of our life, we're not conscious. Whatever's taking place here, okay, so specifically school, interacting with other kids, whatever's taking place, whatever we're learning from school, from home, we're bringing it with us out to the school or to church or to society. We're learning all this. All this is being downloaded into our subconscious brain. We're observing. We're learning how to act. We're learning from mom and dad and that relationship between the two, from grandma, grandpa, our extended family, all of that. Okay? So all this is being downloaded into the subconscious brain. Here, we're starting to become conscious, but we're in a slow conscious. So we hear things such as, big boys don't cry. I'll give you something to cry about. What do you think money is made out of? Tree? What do you think I'm made out of money? All of this is being foisted onto us children as little children. And I will tell you, I lived my life here. What I'm going to tell you here in a second is I lived about 8 or 9 years of age emotionally for a lot of my life. And a lot of us live the same way. We're not much further than 7 years of age, even though chronologically, obviously we're way past that. But emotionally, a lot of people never get past this point, if you will, emotional point in life. So, 2012, Harvard did a study. Okay, it was published in the Journal of Pediatrics, talking about trauma, and trauma is not what happens to us, but more importantly, what happens inside of us based on this trauma. And it said here, the architecture of the brain is constructed through an ongoing process that begins before birth. Right here, in third trimester. That's what they're talking about. Continuing into adulthood. Okay, so again, not much emotionally, many of us are not past that age of 7, and establishes either a sturdy or fragile foundation for all the health all the health, learning, and behavior that follow. I'm going to stop there. Okay, how many people do you see that and they're not even realizing of trauma, the amount of trauma that took place in their life? Big trauma such as a divorce, such as a health issue with a heart attack with mom or dad, or whatever it may be. Okay, containing and continuing into adulthood, established either a sturdy or fragile foundation. Well, if the first 7 years of our life, there was a lot of stress, there was a lot of anxiety, there was a lot of, you're developing an uncertainty. The foundation here is very shaky. This is what they're talking about. If the foundation for your life was very shaky, if you were, your parents were workaholics that were never around, constantly working, and this is what you learned, right? And you learned it from TV. What they call TV is what? Programming. The news is programming. We're learning all this. So we're developing a fragile foundation, okay, for the health, learning, and behavior that follow. And then this is what they said, the rest of the statement. And the interactions of genes and experiences literally shapes the circuitry of the developing brain and is critically influenced by the mutually responsiveness of adult-child relationships, particularly in early childhood years. So what they were saying was that, and what we talked about here a second ago, is that for a lot of society, we never get past here emotionally. A lot of us never get past this age emotionally because of all this was downloaded into our subconscious brain. So what that means is, when you're looking at this here, 95 to 97% of our waking day is based off of this programming. Okay? It's why you hear of Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you haven't heard of him, you should definitely look him up. Says that by age 35, he said this. I don't know if he was quoting somebody or whatever, but some of us on here have heard from him about saying this. By age 35, right? So let's go back to here. By age 35, so a fragile foundation for the health and learning behavior that follow, continuing into adulthood. So what we say is adulthood would be age 35. By age 35, the majority of people operate based off of a memorized set of emotional reactions, hardwired behaviors, perceptions. This is when it is established here, okay? And a lot of us will become workaholics to try to connect with a parent that we couldn't emotionally connect with. I'll tell you myself personally, I got into landscaping and horticulture partly because I felt it was a way to connect with my father, who was emotionally not available. He was not emotionally, he just wasn't there. So I thought by getting into that field, I would be able to connect with him. I know of many adult-child relationships where the child goes into the field of the parent's field, to try to connect with them, but they're not being authentic. This is who I am. This is what I love doing. But for a lot of my adult life, I went into that direction to try to connect with him because I wasn't able to emotionally. He was emotionally not available. So this is what this study is talking about. Indigenous people known about this for centuries. They have always known this. Now, what they said was, if you were stressed, okay, you were prohibited to go near a pregnant woman, to not allow your stress or upset to affect the baby. Why is it now, many, many years later, that we're just learning this now? Right? This is amazing. 70% of adults use, in the United States, are, because some watching me from around the world, 70% of adults in America are on at least one medication. 70% of adults. 40% are on at least 2 or more medications. We're the richest country in the world, and yet 70% of adults are on at least one medication because of this. Because of the way the trauma, I'm not saying there's a magic pill where there's going to be no trauma, but the amount of trauma from people who were sick themselves, had trauma, and they bring children into the world. Now, you're asking probably, okay, George, this is great. This resonates with me. I understand what you're saying, but then how do I get away from it? How do I change this? How do we turn this battleship around, right? Part of it is this way. Now, over here, we're in beta consciousness. So delta, beta, alpha, beta, where we're at right now. We're wide awake. Okay, beta, we're conscious. One of the ways to do it, to learn, is to learn what we just found out today. Knowledge, awareness. It is becoming present. It's living your life as present in the present moment as much as you can. It's understanding that I'm taking responsibility for my life. I'm no longer going to point the finger out at anybody else. There's no more, well, they made me feel this way, or if they did, it's none of that. And there's no blame. Again, we're not blaming anybody here. We're not blaming parents or whatever. They didn't know any better. But to have this awareness now, to say, okay, I'm going to start listening to podcasts or whatever this is, videos like this and others. I'm going to start learning how to reconnect with myself, reconnect with the self. And we reconnect with self as we start to recognize that nothing ever happens out there. It always happens here in the present moment. How I think, how I feel, how I think about myself, what my self-image is. We do these types of things, meditate, understand that in this moment, I am perfect health. In this moment, I am living a life. I am living the life I've always wanted to live. I'm so happy and grateful now that I have this knowledge to understand that any anger that I'm carrying is from this. Any anxiety I'm carrying is from here. Any worry, fear is from here. It start to change the dialogue. Change the dialogue here. How I talk to myself. I want to share something with you from Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says here, how do we move to a greater level of consciousness? Right? So how do I move there? How do I move to change this to where this becomes present thinking? 97% of my days is in the present. How do I do that? Simply by not reacting to our environment. By learning how to pause, self-regulate, and wait for the chemicals, right? So I started in the beginning of this video talking about how just learning this information on a chemical level, on a cellular level, so chemically speaking, we are changing the biology within ourselves just by learning this information. So having those chemicals settle down before we act. This is how we outgrow victimization, judgment, competition, very big, or the need to gossip or to misrepresent someone else. Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm going to end it with this. Dr. Viktor Frankl. Some of you may recognize the name. For those who don't understand who Dr. Viktor Frankl is, he was a psychiatrist who survived. He survived the Nazi Holocaust camps, and he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And what he talked about is in each moment, when there's a stimulus, something happens out there, there is a space, and that space may only be for a couple seconds, but in that space lies your freedom. Because in that space, we have the opportunity, like Dr. Joe Dispenza just said, to either respond or react. And I will tell you, the reaction is the ego. The response is you, is who you truly are on the inside. He says, whatever we are reacting to, that stimulus controls us. Whenever we respond, we are controlling the situation. So, how do we then change this? We first learn that there's nothing more than just the present moment. And in that present moment, I'm going to choose how to live in this moment. Because how I choose to live in this moment, what I choose to think about in this moment, changes everything in the moments, the now moments, from this now moment forward. Because technically there is no such thing as the future or the past. It is just what we choose to hang on to. The ego wants to hang on to this. Okay? The ego wants to lash out and point fingers. It is who we truly are that we learn to start to change the dynamic, change the conversation here. If anybody watching this would like to further this conversation, anything personal taking place in your life, anything that this hit home with, I'm offering coaching. Go to my channel, click on the Coach Geo link, and go ahead and sign up for coaching. I would love to be able to work with you and help you through these events. Because remember, everything works through us. And this works through us. Pain, through us. Trauma goes through us. But with trauma, what we want to do is we want to identify the areas that were affected by the trauma and start to heal those areas, start to check out, because there's a lot of scar tissue left. This is how I ended up getting cancer, because a lot of scar tissue, things that I didn't let go of. So if anybody watching this would like to talk more about this and get some coaching as to how to go about and change these things, go ahead and hit that link. But again, if you haven't already, give this a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get all of my videos. So we, again, can start to change individually, become healthier. And as we do so, we then create a healthy world. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.